Tonight on Primetime, a commitment to peace in the Caucasus. Azerbaijan, Armenia and the US reaffirm their pledge 1 year after the historic declaration. And the vow is a prosperous future for all. The US government has reaffirmed its commitment to lasting peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia on the anniversary of the signing of a significant peace document. James Goodison has more from Washington, D.C.
Well, it's been 1 year to the day since President Trump hosted the President of Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister of Armenia to sign a joint declaration of peace. On that anniversary of the signing, the three countries have put out a statement today saying there's deep pride in what our countries have achieved together and great resolve to build upon the foundation that ended decades of conflict and put the South Caucasus on a path towards a more prosperous future. The statement also pointed towards a number of successes over the past year, stability on the border, steps to normalise relations as well. Also plans for the US to build infrastructure in both countries. Azerbaijan has nearly completed a highway and railroad to connect to a US-led project in Armenia. There's also a big push for trans-Caspian private investment in the South Caucasus and Central Asia as well. The statement also said there have been results on a host of other matters between the three countries, border infrastructure, security, AI, semiconductor innovation, and critical minerals as well. It noted that Azerbaijan lifted restrictions on transit to Armenia and that 60,000 tons of goods have now gone to and from Armenia via Azerbaijan, as well as 20,000 tons of oil products into Armenia as well. The two nations also joined President Trump's Board of Peace that has recently been focused on Israel and Gaza. There was a degree of breakthrough on that 10 days ago when Hamas agreed to disarm, although Israel have since called the plans unacceptable, and the result is in flux. The statement concluded that the three states remain committed to the full implementation of the agreement signed last year, and they look towards a bright and prosperous future in the region. James Goodison for A News in Washington, D.C.
And joining me now is Baku-based political analyst Fuat Karimli. Fuat, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it's been a year since this historic agreement, but the process is still ongoing. Where do you see negotiations between Baku and Yerevan going next?
Well, as you said, definitely, yes, this is a good time to reflect on the past year. So there was a historical moment 1 year ago. It kind of marked the beginning of moving forward from crisis management to actually institutionalizing the long-term peace. And we see that over the past year, there's been a lot of movement towards that in terms of institutionalizing the peace. And in terms of moving forward, I think the few core objectives will be actually completing, for example, formal border delimitations, establishing practical customs protocols, and as well finalizing the legal ratification of the peace treaty.
And how significant an obstacle to further progress is the route of the trip corridor? And how do you see this being managed longer term?
Well, we do see that in the beginning there were some internal and external hindrances towards the trip corridor, especially from public perception within Armenia. But I think the whole idea behind TRIP is that it balances the needs of Azerbaijan, what Azerbaijan sees as having an unhindered connection with Nakhchivan and the mainland of Azerbaijan, as well as addressing the ideas and the perception of the Armenian public in terms of having this corridor. But in terms of regional countries as well, we saw that Iran was skeptical of the trip corridor at first, but now we see that there's a lot of regional shifts taking place. And in terms of managing this, the corridor, it would not just be a transit road or railway, but it has the potential of being a multi-utility energy and communications corridor, which can encompass many different things and not just railways.
And how much of the peace process in the South Caucasus is dependent on events in Turkey and Russia, Fuad, particularly the direction of the war in Ukraine?
Well, we do see that a lot of people think that the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan is dependent on regional actors and cross-border conflicts and the effect that it has on those regional actors. And yes, of course, the fact that the war in Ukraine is progressing for a really long time, it has kept Russia busy on that front and concentrated its efforts in that specific event. But we also see that the peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia is being institutionalized. So it's more dependent on the internal dynamics rather than other regional countries. So it's something that's becoming institutionalized between the two countries as opposed to being controlled, a process being controlled by the regional actors.
Okay, so before seeing any resolution with Ukraine, Iran has also now come up as a major factor there. How do you see Tehran responding to deeper ties between Armenia and Azerbaijan, particularly given its vocal opposition to the Trip corridor and its current conflict with the United States?
Well, of course, we do see that Iran does not want the U.S. In any way or shape or form close to its borders, specifically with all the tension that's going on right now. But then we also know that Iran really does value deep connections with Azerbaijan and Armenia. So it would not risk cutting off that connection because of Trip, in my opinion. However much it would like to get involved in the process and try to hinder this process from happening. But we see that even during the war, President of Iran, he also thanked President Hamayev about the help, the aid that Azerbaijan has provided Iran, the humanitarian aid. So we see that there is a growing sentiment from Iran to Iran. So this could act as a looking at the Trip corridor in a more pragmatic way, since it's not necessarily having placement of U.S. military assets, but it's more of a commercial corridor.
And how important is the peace process to the Central Asian states, and what are they hoping to gain from it?
Well, when we look at the Central Asian states and we think of the peace process, clearly Trip corridor is the main idea here, because when we look at, for example, landlocked countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, they're really dependent on the middle corridor and the potential it has of having unhindered access to Turkish and European markets through South Caucasus. So I think the peace process being finalized between Armenia and Azerbaijan is in their best interest as well, and they're really following this through, and it would have a big economic benefit for those landlocked countries as well.
And Fuad, my final question, how far off do you believe we are from seeing the border between these countries opening, especially now that it seems Turkey is moving towards the reopening of the Magara crossing with Armenia? And what needs to be done to achieve open borders here?
Well, we do see that, realistically speaking, we've been closer to reopening of borders than any time in the past 3 decades. So tensions have been decreasing, cooperation has been increasing, and economic trade has been taking place between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So the next steps would logically be border delimitation and test runs between cross-border trade. So I think economic aspect would be first in terms of weighing out how it will take place, the customs, the tariffs, and all of the technical issues. But I think it also requires a lot of different steps, such as legal ratification of the peace agreement. So that would be the main basis, as well as synchronizing the customs and digital clearing systems between the two countries. And of course, Trip, like finalizing of the Trip is a main aspect of this as well.
Fuad, thank you so much for joining us on Primetime this evening. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
After the break, Trump says Iran must pay compensation for those it has killed and wounded as part of any peace deal. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Primetime. US President Donald Trump has issued a new set of demands to Iran, calling on Tehran to pay compensation for people killed in wars, attacks and protests. The remarks have raised fresh questions over efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
US President Donald Trump has stepped up his rhetoric on Iran, saying Tehran should pay compensation for people killed in wars, attacks and protests caused over the past 50 years. Speaking at the White House on Monday, Trump said the claim would cover the deaths of both civilian protesters and US troops in the region.
They asked for reparations, you might say, or they asked for money for the damage that we've done. I said, that's a good idea. Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period. Whether you go SS Cole or whether you go all of the people that were so badly hurt, so badly wounded or killed, many thousands of people, and maybe damages for the 52,000 protesters over the last 4 months that were killed in Iran.
Meanwhile, human rights groups have reported a much lower death toll of the protesters who died during demonstrations this year. His comments follow Iran's demands for compensation and an end to sanctions. Tehran has said the US must lift sanctions and end military threats before the Strait of Hormuz can reopen. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaei said talks with Oman were continuing and that progress had been made on new shipping lanes. He said some technical issues were still unresolved. Washington and Tehran agreed to a ceasefire in June, but the US reimposed a blockade on Iranian shipping in July. Tehran says that move violated the agreement. Analysts say Trump's new demands could make negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz even more difficult. After his remarks, oil prices closed 5% higher.
Joining us now is Kaswar Klasra, Editor-in-Chief of the Islamabad Telegraph. Welcome to the program, Kaswar.
Thank you.
Now, does this new demand reduce the chance of an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, yes, you have rightly pointed out that we have seen the demands that have just come forward by President Trump. And this is very interesting, that the party which unleashed the attack on the other receiving end, and now they are demanding, the money and also for the war crimes as well. This is very interesting, but we have to look into the details as well. The Iranian sides have been bombarding Arabia, Kuwait, and even there was some civilian target that was actually targeted by the Iranian side as well. Iranian side have been attacking the ships in the Strait of Hormuz as well. So I think if we consider these circumstances, it means the demand that has just put forward by Trump, it seems legitimate. But on the other hand, what if the Iranian side demanded the money for attacking, the innocent school children as well? More than 100 school children were, murdered in Israeli and Americans, the bombardment as well. So I think Trump is very right in demanding, but also what we can do if the similar demand is taken by the Iranian side as well. But on the other hand, as an independent analyst, I believe that the GCC countries, the countries from the Middle East, they have the legitimate reason to demand, the ransom or even demand money for attacking the civilian target. Jumeirah came under attack by the Iranian side. Iranian side had been attacking the Lebanese and Kuwait, and even they did not spare Saudi Arabia as well. So this is really a tactical question. And as far as your question is concerned, I think that Trump is, to some extent, has put forward a legitimate demand.
Who exactly does President Trump believe Iran should compensate, and how would those victims be identified?
Well, the might is right. Trump is the president of one of the world's superpower, and they have their own thinking as well. And if we ask Trump, why did he put forward such kind of demand? Definitely, he must have several reasons, legitimate reasons that we do not know at the moment is. But I think this is really very interesting. We do not know the detail, but I think if the demand just put forward by one of the mighty countries, the president, he must have sense. But we have no detail at the moment. But definitely, I think he must be demanding the money from Iranian side for the damage that Iranian missile pondered some ships in the international waters in Hormuz, state of Hormuz as well, and also the civilian targeted civilian, the sites were targeted by the Iranian missiles in the countries like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and other countries as well that have signed a contract with the United States of America as well. So it is a long story, but at the moment we do not know what exactly prompted President Trump to put forward this demand. This is very tricky. This is very controversial, and at the same time, this is very interesting. We do not have much detail because Trump has his own way of analyzing the things. But regarding his demand, what if, as I told you earlier, what if Iranian side put forward similar kind of the demands? It means we will be back to square. I believe that this is not the time for the two parties to put forward such kind of demand because the world has been facing the catastrophe. Two sides will have to show, a maturity, and they should end the war as well. But I think the way Trump has demanded money from Iran, and also similar kind of, demand can come from Iranian side as well, and they will have legitimate reasons as well. So similar kinds of demands can put forward by the UAE, GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Lebanon, and even Israel can demand such kind of, the demand from Iranian as well. Iranian can put forward, it means we will be back to square. This is not the right time for the two countries. I mean, the United States and Iranian. The world has been watching two sides for a long time. The oil prices have been rising and rising. Every second day, in Pakistan, I'm based in Islamabad. Every second day, the government has to raise fuel prices. Same is the condition with the GCC countries, with the Asian and Scandinavian countries as well. So we have been waiting for the two sides to end the war. But the way Trump has demanded money from Iran, this is really interesting and also controversial as well. It means we are back to scare.
Okay. Kaswar, as you said, Trump certainly does have his own way of analysing events or scenarios, but is this a genuine negotiating demand, or is it primarily a response to Iran's own demand for compensation from the US and Israel?
Well, yes, very good question. So far, no compensation have been, the demand of the compensation have not come forward from the Iranian side. But I believe that in a day or two, Iranian side can come forward with similar kind of, similar kind of demands, compensation as well, because it was not Iran which actually started this war. Rather, Israelis and United States had started this war, and Iran has the legitimate reason to demand the compensation from the two sides as well. But so far they have not demanded it. According to my information, according to my insight, the Iranian side is willing to to end the war as well. But they have actually put forward their demand, release of the funds that have been stashed in UAE, in United States of America, and Iraq, and also some GCC countries as well. And also they have strike a very interesting deal with Oman to manage the state of Hormuz as well. Iran has shown some willingness to end this war, but this kind of the demands what we have been expecting from Trump's side and American side, we were expecting that they will respond with some positive gestures. But on the other hand, this is very interesting that instead of showing his willingness to end the war, Trump has demanded compensation from the Iranian side. It means that this war is not, the end is not going into sight as well. So, well, followed by the Trump's demand. I think in a day or two, Iran will come forward with some kind of demand as well, and also 100 more than 100 innocent kids were martyred in Israelis and United States strikes in Tehran. So I think that makes a very legitimate, case for the Iranian side to to demand compensation as well. So I fear that followed by the Trump's demand for compensation, I believe we are back to square and there is no end in sight, followed by the Trump's, demands for compensation. I was expecting similar kind of demands from Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait, from Lebanon, and other GCC countries, and including UAE as well. That instead of these countries, the demand come forward by demand of compensation come forward by the Trumps, the president of world's superpower. That is really interesting, and I believe that followed by such kind of demand for compensation, I believe that the Iran war is not going to end very soon.
Okay. So this idea of compensation appears to be another central theme in this whole conflict, if you like. This is our new buzzword. Do you see compensation becoming a genuine bargaining chip, or will other issues decide the outcome of this conflict?
When two parties resort to such kind of tactics, it means that all of the stakeholders in the crisis are back to square. As I told you earlier, if Trump can, demand the compensation money, then this makes a very good reason, very good legitimate demand for the Iranian side as well. If two sides are demanding compensation money from each other, it means they have locked the horns. And if two sides which have been fighting war for 10 months, more than 6 months, it means that they are not willing to give up. So on a broader sense, it means there is no end to war in Middle East as well. So it is something that is very teasing, that is very interesting for the world as well. And let me tell you that this crisis, followed by the Iranian and the Iran war, I think the world has been passing through the catastrophic effects of this war. The oil prices have been rising, and it has effect on every aspect of life, not in Pakistan, not in Azerbaijan, but the world is facing a very bitter scenario as well. I think if the two sides are willing to end the war, it means they have to compromise. The Iranian side has to compromise. Trump will have to compromise, and also Trump needs desperately to end this war because the United States is going to hold midterm election, and Trump needs to focus on midterm election as well. But what we are seeing is that instead of him and his party focusing on the midterm election, all of the attention is on the Iran war as well. Iran has shown some willingness, but some elements are there who are very stubborn, and same is the case with Israel and Americans as well. So my point is that when you demand compensation, when you put forward such kind of demand, it means you are not willing to give up. And same is the case with the other party as well. And you will see, mark my word, in a day or two, the Iranian side will come up with such kind of demand from the Trump administration as well. So it means the two sides which are supposed to end the war, instead of showing their willingness to end the war, what they are doing is they are putting forward their demands. It means the world will have to wait for longer to end this war as well. So God forbid, if same demand comes from Iranian side as well, it means this Iran war will, cough up the resources of the war for 2-3 months more as well. Pakistan have been desperately trying two sides to sit across the table as well. Pakistan have been in touch with Azerbaijan, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, and also some of the other countries, including China as well. They have been desperately asking two sides, Iranian and American side, to sit across the table and resolve their matter. And the deadline for the 60 days, which was initially agreed by the two sides, that is very near. This is very ending soon. And God forbid, if it ends and two sides do not show the willingness to end the war, it means another catastrophic. We will be entering another catastrophic era that will, give more chance to bombard, the targets in across Iran as well. So it means that we will be back to scale. State of Hormuz will choked up, and the same is the case with the Red Sea as well. We have
Kaswar,
seen crisis over there as well.
okay, we'll have to end
Yeah.
there. We're running a little bit short on time. Just your final words.
Yeah, the final word is, I think this is the right time for the two sides to give up their demand, to show some courage and compromise on their demand, end the war, because world is waiting desperately to end the Iranian war as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Kaswar, for joining us this evening on Prime Time, and thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll check in with our correspondents around the world. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Prime Time. Turkey's parliament has approved landmark legislation advancing the peace process with the outlawed PKK after 4 decades of conflict. But implementation depends on the group fully disarming. Adam Morrow reports from Istanbul.
Turkey's parliament has approved landmark legislation designed to advance the government's peace process with the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK. The bill passed late Monday by 468 votes to 88, with support from President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's ruling AK party, its nationalist ally, the MHP, and the pro-Kurdish Dem party. The legislation creates a legal framework for implementing the PKK's dissolution and disarmament, while offering legal protections and suspended jail terms for many former militants who were not involved in serious crimes. The law, however, will only take effect once Turkish authorities verify that the group has fully disarmed and ended its militant activities. A decision by Turkey's National Security Council confirming the group's dissolution must then be published before the legal provisions can be implemented. The legislation excludes senior PKK figures convicted of serious crimes, including the group's long-jailed leader, Abdullah Öcalan, who will remain behind bars. Early last year, Öcalan issued a public appeal for the PKK to lay down its arms and disband, a call later endorsed by the group's leadership based in northern Iraq. The PKK subsequently staged a symbolic weapons destruction ceremony, paving the way for the latest legislative step. The PKK, designated a terrorist group by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union, has waged an armed insurgency against the Turkish state since 1984. According to government estimates and international agencies, the conflict has claimed more than 40,000 lives, both civilian and military, and spread into both northern Iraq and Syria. Supporters see the new law as a historic opportunity to end one of the region's most intractable conflicts and reintegrate thousands of former militants into society. Critics, however, say broader political and democratic reforms will still be needed if the peace process is to produce a lasting settlement. This is Adam Morrow for A News in Istanbul, Turkey.
And now to Georgia, where a locally registered crypto platform has been blacklisted by the US over claims it funneled millions of dollars to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Tbilisi disputes the case. Nini Nikolashvili has the story from Tbilisi.
The U.S. Treasury has blacklisted a Georgia-registered crypto platform, accusing it of funneling millions of dollars to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The sanctions target SHPS Shellbit, a Georgia-based firm, and its affiliated cryptocurrency platform. Washington says the two formed part of an international money laundering network benefiting Iran and the IRGC. According to Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, roughly $3 million in IRGC-linked transactions passed through the platform, with more than $2 million sent onward to Nobitex, an already sanctioned Iranian exchange. OFAC says the network is run by two Iranian nationals based outside Iran who together have laundered tens of millions of dollars. It's the latest in a string of sanctions cases tied to Georgia since July. At least 3 companies now under scrutiny. Georgia's national bank pushed back, saying SHPS Shalbit is a private company that never registered as a virtual asset service provider. Foreign Minister Maka Batarishvili acknowledged the difficulty of defending Georgia's interests without a seat at the table, a gap that itself opened after Tbilisi suspended EU accession talks last year. She said the government is working with the European Commission to protect Georgia's standing in the months ahead. Nini Nikolaishvili, Tbilisi, A News.
From financial pressure in Georgia to supply chain concerns in Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan wants Russia retail giant Wildberries to relocate part of its logistics network after drone attacks caused an estimated $2.2 billion in damage. Bishkek sees a trade opportunity. Sevil Rajapova reports from Tashkent.
Kyrgyzstan's Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Timur Sariyev has proposed that Wildberries move part of its warehouses and logistics operations to Kyrgyzstan. The proposal was made during a meeting of the Kyrgyz-Russian Business Council, where officials and businesses discussed ways to increase bilateral trade. He said distributing warehouses across several locations could make the company's supply chain more resilient and reduce the risk of relying on a single location. The suggestion comes after a series of drone attacks on Wildberries logistics facilities in Russia. According to reports, at least 20 Wildberries sites have been targeted since the 18th of July. The reported economic damage from these attacks is estimated to be at least $2.2 billion. Wildberries says it's launched a voluntary support program for sellers whose goods were damaged or destroyed. Sariyev also highlighted other obstacles for Kyrgyz businesses, including differences in product documentation, border queues, and delays in sanitary inspections. The proposed logistics facilities could therefore help diversify Wildberries' distribution network while addressing some of the supply chain challenges affecting Kyrgyz manufacturers. The proposal comes as Kyrgyzstan and Russia work towards increasing bilateral trade to $5 billion. Sibir Rajapur from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
From plans to strengthen trade in Central Asia to growing economic pressure farther south, Pakistan's central bank warns a prolonged Middle East conflict could drive energy costs and inflation higher, threatening the country's fragile economic recovery. The impact is already being felt. Mariam Zia reports from Islamabad.
Pakistan is already feeling the economic fallout from the Middle East conflict. In its report released on Monday, the State Bank of Pakistan warned that a prolonged or wider conflict could push global energy and commodity prices above current projections. The conflict, which began in February, has already driven up energy prices. Freight and insurance costs have also risen. Supply chains have been disrupted. For Pakistan, that matters quickly. Higher energy costs can push up inflation. They can also put pressure on the country's external account and the broader macroeconomic outlook. The impact was visible earlier this year. Inflation averaged 10.2% between March and June, after remaining within the 5 to 7% range earlier in the year. The SBP expects economic growth of 3.5 to 4.5% in fiscal year 27. But it warns elevated energy costs and supply disruptions could slow the recovery. For Pakistan, the risk goes beyond higher fuel prices. A deeper Middle East conflict could feed into inflation, weaken the external position, and put the country's economic recovery under renewed pressure. Mariam Zia, A News, Islamabad.
From economic headwinds in South Asia to digital breakthrough across the Caspian, Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan have completed the most challenging stage of a 380-kilometre undersea fibre optic link connecting Asia more directly with Europe. The cable now moves closer to launch. Correspondent Fariza Kalamurzina reports from Almaty.
The Trans-Caspian fibre optic project has now passed its most challenging stage. Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan have completed the laying of around 380 kilometers of cable along the bottom of the Caspian Sea. The line runs between Aktau in Kazakhstan and Sumgait in Azerbaijan, directly connecting the digital infrastructure of the two countries. Speaking at a press conference, Shavkat Sabirov, president of the Internet Association of Kazakhstan, said the project could significantly increase Kazakhstan's potential as a transit country for international data.
Data transit is a very profitable business for a transit country. And now there is a shorter route from Kazakhstan to Azerbaijan, and from there to Italy, in other words, to Europe. Previously, the cable from Azerbaijan went only to Sofia, and from there the traffic continued through various interconnections. Now Kazakhstan has an additional route that can provide Asia, and not only Southeast Asia, with a shorter and more direct connection to Europe.
For Kazakhstan, the project is also part of a broader effort to diversify its international digital connections and develop the infrastructure needed for data centers, cloud services and artificial intelligence. And according to Sabirov, the new connection does not necessarily mean cheaper mobile internet for consumers in Kazakhstan. He says the cost of mobile services depends on other factors, while the main economic opportunity from the project lies in international data transit. The cable has now been laid across the Caspian, but the project is not yet complete. Engineers are connecting it to infrastructure onshore. The next stage will include completing the terrestrial infrastructure, commissioning and testing the system before the new connection becomes fully operational. Fariza Kalimurzina, Almaty, A News.
Up next, from digital links to energy supplies, Afghanistan and Turkmenistan are stepping up cooperation on the long-delayed Tapi pipeline, with a new deal covering the purchase and distribution of Turkmen gas. Tamim Bahis reports from Kabul.
Afghanistan is calling for faster progress on the Turkmenistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan-India pipeline known as the Tapi, and for the two countries to reach agreement on the price of natural gas. That's according to Afghanistan's Office of the Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs. It's after Abdul Ghani brother met Turkmenistan's national leader Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov in the western province of Herat. They discussed the Tapi pipeline as well as a wider economic cooperation. Brother also called for the development of a gas distribution network in Herat, improvements to transit facilities at Akina and Turkmenbashi ports, and the reactivation of the Lapez-Lazuli corridor. This is a trade route linking Afghanistan with Azerbaijan and further west. The two sides also agreed to form a joint committee to advance the Tapi, the Turkmen-Afghanistan-Pakistan pipeline known as the TAP, fiber optic and railway projects. And in a further development, Afghanistan's state-owned Afghan Gas Company and Turkmenistan's Turkmengas signed a memorandum of understanding in Turgundi, Herat on Monday. The agreement will set the gas price, Afghanistan's demand and distribution arrangements under the Tapi project. The latest agreements signal an effort by Kabul and Ashgabat to move forward with projects that could strengthen energy supplies, trade and regional connectivity. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, A News.
After the break, we'll take a look at other top stories making headlines today. Welcome back. You're watching Prime Time. Russia's Supreme Court has delivered a major blow to the country's small liberal opposition, excluding its only officially registered anti-war party from the September vote. Supporters of Yabloko gathered outside the court in a rare show of defiance.
Russia's only officially registered anti-war party has been shut out of September's parliamentary elections after the Supreme Court barred Yabloko from taking part. The court ruled in favour of a lawsuit filed by the small pro-Kremlin nationalist party, Rodina. It alleged that Yabloko had received undeclared campaign support, including from Western sources, among other accusations.
The registration of the federal list of candidates for deputies of the State Duma, of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation of the 9th Convocation, nominated by the Yabloko Russian United Democratic Party, is cancelled.
Yabloko leader Nikolai Rybakov rejected the allegations during the hearing, saying there was no evidence to support them.
This day is our collective contribution toward bringing peace closer, because it shows how many people support peace and want to see an end to the loss of human lives. I would like to say that the court's decision has not yet entered into force. We have 5 days, and we will continue to appeal this decision to the Supreme Court. We have that right, and we will do everything possible within the law to have this decision overturned.
Yabloko had been using the election campaign to draw attention to its call for Russia to sign a ceasefire agreement. Once a leading liberal force in post-Soviet Russia, Yabloko now has only a handful of regional seats and none in the national parliament. The ruling further narrows the already limited space for dissent in Russian politics. Outside the court, a few hundred supporters, mostly young people, gathered as police stood by. Some carried apples to show their affiliation with Yabloko, whose name means apple in Russian.
Ukraine says Russia is preparing to deploy more North Korean troops and has received additional ballistic missiles from Pyongyang. Kyiv warns the battlefield experience poses a growing threat far beyond Europe.
They are now preparing to deploy an additional North Korean contingent on its territory. They have also received additional ballistic missiles from North Korea. Everyone around the world must understand what this means. This is not only about the lives of people in Ukraine and not only about the threats we face. North Korea's ballistic missiles and other weapons are being improved through its collaboration with Russia. The more North Korean strikes there are here in Ukraine, in Europe, the more their missiles and soldiers are used, the more they correct their shortcomings and blind spots, the greater the danger will later be for Japan, the Republic of Korea, the Philippines, and other countries in the region. That is why, when we speak about the need for joint action, for coordination and mutual support, when we speak about the need to help us strengthen our air defense, we are also in fact speaking about taking away North Korea's appetite and any interest in coming here, to our land and into our skies, with its weapons in order to learn how to wage war. Everyone across the globe who respects human life must stand together in taking action to protect people.
Lithuania, Latvia and Poland have tightened security around critical energy infrastructure amid reports Russia may be considering attacks using captured Ukrainian drones. NATO's eastern flank is on heightened alert.
Security protection has been strengthened at Lithuania's critical infrastructure. The country's military intelligence reportedly obtained information that Russia was considering attacks in the Baltic region using captured Ukrainian drones. Since the 18th of June, Lithuania's military personnel have been helping protect the country's LNG terminal, power facilities, and an electricity link with Poland. Defence Minister Robertas Kaunas says he's extended the support of 30 personnel through to the 19th of August. Over in Latvia, extra security has been put in place around vital infrastructure, including a dam on the Daugava River near Riga and the Inčukalns underground natural gas storage facility. That's according to Prime Minister Andris Kulbergs in an interview with Reuters. In Poland, energy company Orlen is examining alternative gas import routes in case its usual supplies or infrastructure are threatened. Currently, it imports about 80% of Poland's gas through the Świnoujście LNG terminal and an undersea pipeline carrying Norwegian gas. Gaz System, which operates the infrastructure, is working under heightened alert conditions, according to a source familiar with the matter. Poland has also increased security around an electricity connection with Ukraine, which helps stabilize the country's war-damaged power grid. The moves reflect growing concern across NATO's eastern flank over potential attacks or sabotage targeting critical infrastructure.
Rescue operations have entered a second day after Colombia's most powerful earthquake in decades. At least 164 people have been killed, including 85 in Cali, 66 in Pereira, and 13 in Choco. Emergency teams say the death toll could rise as the search continues.
Rescue workers, police, soldiers and volunteers dig through collapsed buildings and flattened homes in Western Colombia. The magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck on Monday at a depth of 107 kilometres. It caused widespread destruction in the country's coffee-growing region. In an initial assessment, President Abelardo de la Espriella outlined the scale of the damage in Cali.
Nos encontramos en el puesto de mando unificado en la ciudad de Cali.
We have approximately 5,000 homes that have been damaged or collapsed, 35 fatalities, and approximately 700 injured. 3 hospitals have collapsed, and 18 others have been affected. 39 schools have been affected, and the airport has sustained damage and is operating on a limited basis. But what concerns us most, without a doubt, are the 188 people who are missing.
Several upper floors of one hospital collapsed, trapping some patients. Around 600 others were treated outside on a street covered with rubble. Emergency crews used excavators, picks and shovels to clear debris. At times, rescuers called for silence as they listened for signs of life.
Several parts of the city have been affected with structural damage. We have hospitals and schools that have been badly affected. The entire Cali Fire Department was deployed with all its capabilities. We are at different locations trying to reach every last area and verify whether there are signs of life.
In Pereira, entire residential blocks were reduced to concrete and twisted steel. The earthquake also damaged the city's airport and brought down part of an historic cathedral tower in Manizales. Curfews were imposed in both cities following reports of looting. 1,000 additional security personnel were deployed to Cali. The disaster has drawn comparisons with the 1999 earthquake that devastated the same region and killed more than 1,000 people.
From all of us here at A News, thank you for watching.